Ever wonder why public restroom doors never reach the floor? It is a design choice that traces back to the famous architect Frank Lloyd Wright. In the early 20th century, he was busy designing a large office building in New York. He noticed that traditional wooden doors in busy areas warped easily because of constant mopping and heavy moisture. To fix this issue, he came up with the idea of hanging stall doors directly from the ceiling. This trick lifted the wood away from wet floors, making the room easier to clean. That spark paved the way for modern restrooms. Stepping into those early designs, builders quickly realized that Wright had solved more than just a water damage problem. The new hanging style left a noticeable gap at the bottom of every stall. At first glance, this gap might seem like a mistake or a simple lack of privacy. But architects soon saw that this open space at the floor level brought unexpected advantages to public buildings. For one thing, the high doors allowed light from the main room to flow freely into each small stall. This meant less wiring and fewer light fixtures were needed. It was a success. Moving past the early days of design, the gap at the bottom began to prove its worth in completely different ways. Imagine a busy shopping mall or a large airport where thousands of people pass through the facilities every single day. In these packed locations, the short doors provide a clear visual cue to anyone walking into the restroom area. You can instantly see if a stall is occupied just by glancing down at the floor to check for feet. This simple trick saves everyone the awkward experience of knocking on doors or rattling handles to find an empty spot. Beyond just avoiding awkward moments, that space under the door actually plays a major role in keeping the air fresh. Fully sealed rooms trap unpleasant smells and create a very uncomfortable environment for anyone who has to use the space. By leaving the bottom open, fresh air can circulate freely throughout the entire room, swept along by the main vents. The continuous airflow helps clear out bad odors much faster than a standard room with solid doors reaching the floor. On top of that, good ventilation stops mold and dampness from building up on the walls and the ceiling tiles. Walking further into the practical side of this design, we encounter a much more serious benefit, known as silent rescue. There was once a well-known medical emergency where an elderly man suddenly fainted while using a public restroom stall. Because the door was short, the next person who walked into the room immediately spotted his shoes resting unnaturally sideways. They realized something was wrong just by seeing his feet, and they quickly called for help to save his life. If the stall had a regular solid door, he might have been trapped alone inside for hours without anyone noticing. That specific short story acts as a perfect bridge to another big advantage of these open stalls, which is safety. In cases where a lock simply jams or a child gets accidentally stuck, people can easily slide right out underneath. Emergency responders do not have to break down heavy wooden barriers or shatter expensive hinges just to reach the person. Shifting our view from emergencies back to daily routines, the gap also makes the life of the janitorial staff easier. Cleaners can wash the entire floor quickly without having to open and close a dozen different doors along the way. Gliding a mop straight across the room saves hours of tedious work and keeps the tiles completely sanitary for everyone. But there is another very practical business side to this design choice that we should definitely look at right now. Shorter doors use significantly less material than full doors, which effectively drops the manufacturing cost for the companies building them. When you are constructing a large sports stadium or an airport, buying thousands of small doors saves significant project funds. These reduced pieces are also much lighter and faster to transport, lowering the shipping fees across the entire supply chain. Looking around the modern world, the materials and the cleaning benefits explain the business logic behind these short bathroom doors. But there is a fascinating human element to this story that directly controls how people behave in these shared spaces. It all comes down to a simple concept known as the psychology of waiting, which prevents lines from getting long. Have you ever noticed that you naturally tend to rush a little bit when you use a shared public restroom? That feeling of urgency is completely intentional, and the design of the short doors is exactly what creates that reaction. When you are inside a fully enclosed room with a heavy, solid door, you feel completely isolated from the world. This total privacy makes you feel cozy and relaxed, meaning you are much more likely to pull out your phone. You might start reading articles, scrolling through social media, or texting friends, entirely forgetting that other people are waiting outside. That is exactly how lines form, and a simple restroom trip turns into a frustrating waiting game for everyone else. By keeping the doors short, the design strips away that cozy feeling and subtly reminds you that you are exposed. Sitting in a stall with a big gap at the bottom means you can hear every single footstep walking by. You can hear the sink running, people talking, and you know that anyone walking past can easily see your shoes. This lack of total privacy creates a very mild sense of exposure that keeps your mind focused on the task. It acts like an invisible timer ticking in your head, pushing you to finish up quickly and exit the stall. Because you do not linger to browse your phone, the line keeps moving fast, and the space never gets crowded. Stepping away from our screens, that gap at the bottom also helps out during one of the most awkward, everyday situations imaginable. Picture realizing too late that you have run out of toilet paper. Without the open space, you would be forced to peek out or leave the room entirely. Instead, you can simply ask the person right next to you for some help. Because the divider walls also stop short of the ground, a stranger can easily pass a fresh roll under the wall. Neither of you has to open a door or expose yourselves, saving you from total embarrassment. Moving from that awkward moment to an actual plumbing disaster, the opening also works as a brilliant flood preventer. If a toilet ever gets clogged and overflows, a solid floor-to-ceiling door would trap the water inside. The door would act like a giant dam, creating a massive flood that suddenly bursts out when someone finally opens it. The gap prevents this by allowing the water to safely drain out toward the main floor drains right away. The next time you see those short doors, you will know they are actually a perfect piece of design.